Hello, and thank you for stopping by. Today I will be making the first repair on this John Deere 500 Industrial Tractor. Now the first repair we're going to do today is this hose. This hose has to be replaced. A few other ones look like they might be going sometime soon, but this is the first time I'm replacing a hose on a machine of this size. So you'll be watching and learning with me as I go through this. Now I traced this hose up to here, and I said, wow, this is great. It's the hose up front. I don't have to touch the ones in the back. But when I trace it down to back here, it looks like it's the hose that's under this hose. So it's going to get a little sticky here. I'm going to have to disconnect this hose. To get these out, I have to remove this bracket. Let's see, we still in focus here. I have to remove this bracket, and these should give me a little bit of flex. Maybe I won't have to disconnect this one, I'm not sure. But the other day I came out, and when I disconnected this hose and the hydraulic fluid kept dripping, it didn't look like it was going to stop. And somebody from HO Pen told me that it could actually drip and siphon out your hydraulic fluid. I don't know, the hydraulic fluid I would think was lower than this, but you know, if you siphon gas out of a tank before, you know how it could pull from the bottom up to the top and down. So I didn't want to take any chances, so I just put it back together. The reason I waited until today is because I ordered plugs to cap this off, and I also have caps for the hoses if I'm going to undo any hoses that have to stay in. Now I have a cement bucket down here to catch any oil that might drip. It should drip into this bucket, but I have this also. I don't want it on the ground. And the hose that we're replacing today is for the Backhoe's bucket. Everything works on this tractor so far without any leaks. There's some new hoses on here already. Some of them already blew before I got it, so that was good for me. If I curl this bucket, it leaks like crazy through that hose. So the hose we're replacing today, again, is for this bucket. Now let me show you what I got. I had to go out and get some large wrenches, and I went to our favorite place here, Harbor Freight. I bought this set, and this set's a little better. This one here, the longer wrenches, and I believe they fit a little tighter. I know the 1-inch wrench fits snug on the nut. The 7/8 has a little bit of a slop, but close enough to where I'm not going to strip anything. And the 9/16, this one here has a little bit of slop, but I'm only using it on one nut, and that's over here, and she fits tight enough. So that's what I have for wrenches. Now I did have to get an angle wrench because of the angle that fitting is in this casing. I figured, why knock myself out, and I could just get the right tool. So the bad part is a 1-inch wrench that they have, no one was selling them around here. Home Depot, Lowe's, I had to wait for them to mail it to me, and I had to get a set. So I picked up this one off Amazon, and I believe it was $15. I have the link for this down below. So if you just need one wrench and you don't want to spend $196 on a complete set, go to that link. By the way, that is an affiliate link that I have for this. Besides this, I bought those caps that I mentioned. Let's see what they look like. And again, this is off Amazon. Okay, we got it all. It's taped up pretty good. And these are metal caps. Let's see what we have. Now you could buy these caps individually, but I don't know what else I'm going to need as I go along with this tractor. So this was a little pricey. It was just under $60, but it has all different sizes. Oh, a nice little kitty comes in. Let's see what we have. Okay, and this is what I'm looking for. I believe it'll be this one. Okay, this is a plug and a cap. So what I would do when I disconnect the hose, I'll put this cap on to keep that fluid from leaking out. I'm not going to be able to get this hose replaced until tomorrow, and even if I was getting it replaced today, It would take me at least a half-hour round trip to where I have to go to get the hose. I was told it would take 15 to 30 minutes to make the hose, and if they didn't have the fittings that I needed, I would have to go somewhere else. So I didn't want to keep that opened all that time, exposed to the elements, critters, rain, humidity, or whatever. So I'm comfortable with this now. The way I'm proceeding is like this. I'll be disconnecting the hose. I'll put the cap on, then I'm going to follow it down. I'm going to disconnect that fitting that's in there, and once I disconnect the hose down below, I'll put another cap on the fitting that's down in there. I'm not sure if this is picking it up. I'll put another one of these caps down there. Should have minimal spillage when I do this. I don't have a tripod out here to stand this up, but all I'm going to do is you're going to need 2 wrenches on here. On the hose, it's a stationary fitting. It doesn't turn. The swivel is on the part that's connected to the tractor. So once I get that done, I'll show you what I have. This happens to be the next day. When I removed this hose, I noticed there was another one down below. It wasn't leaking, but it looked a little fray. So I disconnected what I thought was the hose up on this end, but when I got down to the bottom end, I had the wrong hose disconnected. So I put that back together because it was getting late, getting dark, and the temperature turned for the worse. I'm hurrying this along today because they're predicting rain for this afternoon, and it's really cold out here. But what I did, got the hose off, I brought it into the shop, and they made a hose for me while I was waiting. It was pretty impressive. And you can see the new hose is a lot thinner than the old hose, but it's rated for 5,000 pounds of pressure, 5,000 psi. It's a double braided hose, which means it has 2 coils of wire in there, and it's stainless steel wire. I watched them cut it, I watched them crimp the fittings on, and this should be a go. So what's nice, even though I purchased those metal caps, it comes with these plastic caps on them. I'm going to keep these on as I snake it through this mess over here to the fitting to where it has to go. I wanted to clean this all out before I started to use the pressure washer. I just didn't have the reach for the hose. I'm far from the house. If you're working on this, I recommend that's something that you do. I cleaned it out the best I could with a scraper and pulling it out by hand, but you can see there's a lot left behind. I'm going to snake the hose through. It goes down through the bottom here, comes out over here. I'm going to attach it on both ends. Then I'm going to check the fluid because we lost a little, I would say just about a half gallon, a little over a quart, and it's been in the 20s the last couple of nights. I hope this old girl starts up, but we'll get to that when I'm done installing this hose. I have the hose installed, and with this fitting you don't use any sealing on the threads. I was told the ones with flat fittings you do. This one over here, I can't tell if that's in deep enough. I thought maybe it was cocked. I took it apart a couple times, put it together. That's as much depth as I can get on it. So I won't know until I start it up, unfortunately, whether that's going to hold. It looks like it should be screwed down a little bit tighter, but then again, this old one over here has quite a bit of space too. Really can't go by that. The fella that made the hose up for me said that the hose I brought in looks like it might have been the original. It's from 1963. From what I read online, again, I'm not experienced with this at all, they say hoses go anywhere from 5 to 7 years. Well, I don't know, but we'll see. This particular hose, I was told, is a quality hose. It comes from Italy. We'll see. Let's go check that hydraulic fluid, see if we have enough in there. Thing about this hydraulic fluid, when checking it, I have to see if I can find a manual to see whether we check it when the engine is hot or when it's cold. I don't know. I know this is the dipstick. The fellow that sold it to me said this is where you check it. I should have asked him that, maybe he would have known. Let's see what we have here. Oh, this is definitely low. Okay. So I'm definitely going to have to add some hydraulic fluid to this before we start using it. And once that's done, we'll crank this up and make sure it doesn't leak. I'm going to start it up, run it for a minute or two, curl that bucket, and make sure it doesn't leak. If it does leak, I have the bucket underneath to catch any oil that may leak out. So let me get up there, get it started, and we'll see what we have. I started her up, let the engine warm, use the front hydraulics first a few times, get the fluids moving around, and when I curled the bucket, I heard that distressing hiss. We had another leak down below, the hose down below. I already have the hose disconnected. I went out, had the hose made, and I'm going to install the second hose today. Now, just to show you what's involved here, the hose that was leaking is connected back here. To get to this hose, I had to disconnect the hose that I already installed plus the one alongside of it. And to make matters even worse, here's where you would have one wrench, and here's where you would have the second wrench. Well, back there, it's hard to show with the camera, the fitting that's next to it is so close that you can't get a wrench onto the top fitting. I tried to get it out of the manifold. I put a lot of pressure on it and it wouldn't budge. Then I was thinking, what if I strip it in there? So what I did was disconnect the hose from the boom side, use the crowbar to pry it out of here, kept it straight up and down, and had the wrench slightly on that nut, turned the hose instead of trying to turn the nut itself, and it loosened up that way. Now when I go to install it, that's going to be some fun. Warmed up a little bit today, and I have the hose in the house. Hopefully it'll be a little more flexible when I have to get it back into here. We'll see. I'm not going to video installing the hose because all it is really is connecting it to that fitting back there, connecting the other two, running the hose up to here. This is a challenge in here because it's really tight. It looks like there's a lot of space here, but it's not as much space as you think it would be, the way these hoses are twisted around. So once I have this together, we'll start her up. Well, 2 hoses later, let's go fire it up and make sure she doesn't leak. Here, this is a replacement hose, and this other one's a replacement hose down here. These are the 2. I still have to put the little bracket in to hold them together, but I want to fire it up now. I'm not sure if it's going to start. It's been sitting out here for a week, and we've been having some freezing weather. So let's see if we can fire it up and check her out. On. tractor. I'm not even going to sit on the seat. That's water. I thought it was oil. Get all the way over there so something. It's looking good. This is where we leak down here, and the line goes up to the bucket. Curling this bucket a couple of times. So far, everything's looking great. No leak. Right down in here is where that leak was before. No leaking, nothing dripping. That in there is water. When I first raised the boom, there was water in this little pocket over here that dripped down. I thought it was oil at first, then I realized it was just the water dripping down. Stretched this bucket all the way out, closed it up a few times, didn't have any issue with it. Not sure about this little oil on the piston here. Hope that's not a problem. I greased these up a little bit. Now you can see the bucket, close up of the bucket here. It's got these holes, dents. As I mentioned in the earlier video, I'll be practicing some of my welding over here. See this crack all the way down? This thing must have been working hard. If you're not familiar with these units, this metal is extremely thick. It's not like something you buy in the box stores. On the smaller units. Take another walk around. The hour meter doesn't work. None of the controls, none of the electronics on this machine work. The hour meter doesn't work, and none of the gauges work at all. The fuel gauge doesn't work, the temperature gauge doesn't work. If anybody has any recommendations or any know-how on how to connect these gauges or put new gauges on, please post the comments down below. I'm open to all suggestions here. Again, there's some loose wires. Now here's something that's interesting. I haven't seen this before. Right up in here, see the spout looks like a kitchen spout? That's actually to spray ether into the engine when you go to start it. This engine, it's a diesel, but it doesn't have glow plugs. That nozzle's for the ether. Now this switch over here, I have no idea what that's for. Again, if you know what that's for, please post it down in the comment. I could use all the help I can get on this unit. And that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, let me know. Give it a like. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe. Hit this Joe Z icon. And not to miss my new videos as I upload them, be sure to ring that bell. Until next time, stay safe.